Hello and welcome back to the big picture. Today let's talk about the manufacturing versus services and what should India focus on. This is one of the most important economic questions for India's future. Should India become the next China by building factories and becoming a global manufacturing hub? Or should India double down on what it already does well? IT services, digital businesses, finance, consulting and the knowledge economy. Because the answer to this question will decide where jobs will come from, which companies will grow, where investments will flow, and what kind of economy India will become over the next 20 years. So if you enjoy deep, easy to understand business and economy stories like this, join this channel right away and support our work. India today is standing at a very unique point in history. China is slowly becoming expensive. Global companies want to diversify supply chains, technology is changing the nature of work, and artificial intelligence is reshaping industries, and India has the world's largest youth population. This creates a massive opportunity. But there's also a challenge. According to various estimates, India needs to create around 8 to 10 million jobs annually to absorb its growing workforce. The country's working age population continues to rise rapidly, and this is where the big debate begins. Should India focus more on manufacturing or services? To answer that, we first need to understand how countries become rich. Historically, most developed countries followed a similar path. First came agriculture, then manufacturing, and then services. This happened in the United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, South Korea, and especially China. Manufacturing created factories, exports, middle-class jobs, urbanization, infrastructure growth. Then, once incomes rose, services became dominant. China is the best modern example. For decades, China focused heavily on manufacturing, be it electronic, machinery, textiles, chemicals, infrastructure. And that manufacturing boom transformed China into the world's second largest economy. Today, manufacturing contributes around 26 to 27% of China's GDP. India, however, followed a very different path. India did something unusual. Instead of becoming a manufacturing powerhouse first, India became a services powerhouse directly. Today, IT services, software experts, consulting, finance, telecom, digital businesses drive a large part of India's economy. According to the Government of India and World Bank data, services contribute around 54 to 55% of India's GDP, and manufacture contributes around 16 to 17%. Now that is a very unusual structure for a developing country. Why services became India's strength? India's services sector exploded because of a few key advantages. English-speaking workforce. India had a large educated population comfortable with English. That helped India dominate software exports, BPOs, consulting, global capability centers. Second, cheap skilled labor. Indian engineers and professionals were globally competitive but cost effective. Third, IT revolution. The internet and software boom came at the perfect time for India. Companies like Infosys, Tata Consultancy Services, Wipro became global giants. India eventually became the world's back office. Today, India exports over $300 billion worth of IT and business services annually. And this is where the debate becomes serious. India's services sector creates wealth, but can it create enough jobs? That is the big question. High-end services like software, finance, consulting, AI, analytics require education and skills. But millions of Indians entering the workforce may not immediately have those skills. Now, manufacturing, on the other hand, can absorb large-scale labor. Factories can create jobs for semi-skilled workers, migrant workers, vocational workers, and industrial labor. That is exactly what happened in China, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. Manufacturing has one major advantage. It creates jobs at scale. A factory ecosystem doesn't just create factory jobs. It also creates logistic jobs, transport jobs, warehousing, suppliers, construction, local services, and small businesses. One successful industrial cluster can transform an entire region. Take China's Shenzhen. It started as a small fishing town, then manufacturing investment came. Today, it is one of the world's biggest technology cities. India wants to replicate something similar through Make in India, production-linked incentives or PLI schemes, industrial corridors, and semiconductor missions. Why exactly the government is pushing manufacturing? India's government clearly understands this challenge. That's why manufacturing has become a strategic priority. The PLI scheme alone covers sectors like electronics, semiconductors, telecom, batteries, pharmaceuticals, solar modules, and automobiles. Apple's supply chain shift is one such example. Companies like Apple, Foxconn are expanding manufacturing in India. India's iPhone exports crossed around $20 billion recently, according to government estimates and industry reports. This is a major milestone. Now comes the difficult part. Manufacturing sounds attractive, but competing with China? is extremely hard. China has world-class infrastructure, ports, supply chains, industrial ecosystems, skilled labor, scale advantages. And India still struggles with logistic costs, land acquisition, bureaucracy, electricity reliability in some regions, fragmented supply chains. According to the World Bank and industry estimates, India's logistics costs are around 13 to 14% of GDP, much higher than developed manufacturing economies. That makes exports less competitive. Now let's look at the services side again. Services may not create mass employment like factories, but they create higher margins, higher productivity, global competitiveness, and innovation ecosystems. India's digital economy is already booming. India today is a leader in fintech, digital payments, software exports, startup ecosystems, AI talent, and SaaS businesses. UPI itself processes billions of transactions monthly. India's digital infrastructure is now globally admired. This is where the debate becomes even more nuanced. The answer is probably not manufacturing or services. The answer is manufacturing and services. Because modern economies are deeply interconnected. For example, factories now need software, logistics needs AI, manufacturing needs automation, exports need digital infrastructure, and industrial systems need data analytics. Even manufacturing itself is becoming technology-driven. China succeeded not just because of cheap labor, but because it built entire ecosystems. India may need manufacturing for jobs, services, for innovation, and digital infrastructure for efficiency. Now, imagine this combination. India manufactures electronics, EV batteries, semiconductors, defense equipments, renewable energy products, and simultaneously, India dominates AI services, software, cloud infrastructure, digital payments, global capability centers. Now that combination could make India one of the world's most powerful economies. Now let's talk about the important Indian companies that could benefit from this. Manufacturing-focused beneficiaries. We are now talking about a few companies, but please ensure not to consider them as a recommendation to buy or sell. Let's talk about Larsen & Toubro or L&T. This company is a major beneficiary of industrialization, infrastructure, and manufacturing expansion. Siemens India could benefit from factory automation and industrial digitalization. Dixon Technologies is one of India's biggest electronic manufacturing players. It could benefit from smartphone and electronics assembly growth. Tata Motors is doing great in EV manufacturing, and industrial growth can support its long-term expansion. Bharat Electronics has emerged as a winner in India's defense manufacturing, and a push could create massive opportunities for this company. Now let's talk about services-focused beneficiaries. Infosys, Tata Consultancy Services or TCS, HCL Tech, these companies benefit from AI adoption, cloud migration, digital transformation, and global outsourcing demand. Then comes Zepto and Paytm. India's digital consumer economy growth can support these businesses. At the end of the day, India's biggest challenge is not simply becoming a $5 trillion economy. The real challenge is creating meaningful jobs for millions of people. Manufacturing is important because it creates employment at scale. Services are important because they create innovation and global competitiveness. India cannot ignore either one. India probably should not blindly copy China, and it also cannot depend only on software and services forever. The future may belong to a hybrid model. Strong manufacturing, powerful services, digital infrastructure, innovation ecosystems, export competitiveness. The countries that dominate the next 30 years may not be those that chose manufacturing or services. They may be the countries that successfully combine both. And India has a rare opportunity to attempt exactly that.
Investment in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.